Garrett Cooper is back, baby. Shaun Barrett on the episode yesterday, calling out that there's no time to panic over Garrett Cooper, and he is back. Peyton Burdick is back in AAA. One-run losses. Maybe starting to pile up here for the Marlins. Are we in panic mode? Big game this evening. Sandy Alcantara looking to get the first win in Coors. Patchy record for Sandy in Coors, so it's going to be a big ask. Tons to get into. UK Go is back on Wednesday on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins podcast, and I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, on Twitter at Miami Marlins_UK. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's still UK friendly here. The sun is still shining. I've had a few beers. Shaun's probably had a few beers. The sun is out in the UK today. Boys are feeling good. Hit subscribe to the pod. Of course, it is your team every day. Head over to YouTube as well. Hit subscribe there too. It is Locked On Marlins for the YouTube channel, and you will see new graphics are here, and the rundown is posted. The agenda is set. So tons to get into, but delighted to welcome back on a Wednesday. Did tease it out that Shaun would likely be doing a 2-episode extravaganza this week. The UK Go, Shaun Barrett. How are we doing, brother?
Yeah, not bad, Pete. As you said, the sun's out. A few beers, but unfortunately, last night's game didn't quite go our way, but there were some positives there that I'm sure we'll get into.
No doubt. Some positives. A one-run loss for the Fish. A lot of hits. A lot of runners in scoring position left. Uri Perez didn't quite get through 5 innings in the end. Disappointing defeat. Actually, this series thus far, there's been games that have both been winnable. The Marlins haven't quite been able to get it done, I think. Let's maybe start there. I did want to talk about Peyton Burdick going back to AAA, but let's maybe start with game one. This couple of games, to me, has some 2022 vibes about it, where a couple of injuries kick in, all of a sudden, the Marlins just can't quite get the big hit anymore. And Skip used that language post-game as well yesterday, which is the first time I've heard that language, and it's very Don Mattingly language from last year, talking about, hey, we just couldn't quite get that big hit to piece it together, missed opportunities. That kind of sums up this Marlins team at the moment. It's a tough stretch. They're on the road. They've had tough games all year long. There's been no let up for them at all. Everything's been just like real tough game after tough game. But it does feel a little bit eerily similar to 22 at the moment, albeit the team is just one game below 500. So it's not panic stations just yet. Maybe it is. But what's your overall assessment at this point, mate?
Yeah, you're right in saying that it's a lot like last year. It's a lot like Marlins baseball, 0-for-7. Runners in score position, 9 left on base. That's what we used to see in that timely hit. Now, don't get me wrong, there was Sorare still swinging a hot bat, and Coops, with that home run, that certainly helped. But I think there were circumstances where the Marlins had an opportunity to get things running, put up a crooked number, and they just couldn't quite get that timely hit. And it's unfortunate. And as you said, it is a case of you have an injury here or an injury there, and the starter struggling, or the bullpen starts to struggle, but there's a game again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. You haven't got time to breathe. You've just got to keep playing these games, grinding out the season. And at the moment, the Marlins do seem to be struggling to sort of piece together some cohesion and get a win under their belt.
Yeah, absolutely. I must say, since Jazz has gone down and more is being asked of Garrett Hampson, I do feel like this is indicative maybe, of the Marlins. Like they brought Peyton Burdick up. We'll talk about Burdick in a sec, but more is being asked of Garrett Hampson. Naturally, he's starting to cool and come back down to earth a touch. And Skip again spoke about it, I think, pre-game actually on, what's this trade for Jonathan Davis and why is he here? And he's basically saying, listen, we're struggling at center field. Jazz has gone down, and Hampson's got a broader role. He's in Birdie 2.0 mode. And thus, the Marlins are digging into the depth of depth charts, it seems, to get a center fielder back on. They're hanging tough. They need to hang tough at this point, mate, really. It feels like this is in survival mode situation, particularly with another city to go on this road trip, mate. I don't know. I mean, Jonathan Davis, it sounds like he may get a decent opportunity here at center field. He came and ended the game yesterday as a pinch runner. Didn't have a plate appearance, but, Jonathan Davis, you're starting center fielder at the back end of May. No one predicted this one, I don't think, right?
If they did, they should be playing the lottery. I think the storyline for this season at the moment is exactly that, how much we've been talking about Hampson.
Yeah, true.
And it is a case of, he started off hot, the BABIP was high, getting a lot of luck, and as you said, he's coming back to earth now. His centre field defence, I've really not been a fan of it. There's been a few plays here and there, not backing up a throw to second base, giving them that extra base. He's not a centre fielder to me, and I think that's where this trade has come from. They want a guy that can field the position correctly, knows what he's doing, has done it for large parts of his career. And at the moment, Hampson's bat isn't exactly screaming out that he should be getting in the lineup no matter what. So I think that's what they've done. They know they can get an upgrade simply by bringing in a guy that can defend the position, and if they get anything from the bat, that's a positive. Yeah,
I think so. I'm going to be really intrigued to see the playing time. I think we've seen it as well with Xavier Edwards. The bat has actually played pretty well. Xavier Edwards hits from both sides. He's been impressive. However, again, he's been in a similar situation, maybe to Jazz, but a AAA level where he's been asked to transition out to center field. He's still learning the position. Doesn't have Jazz's athleticism, let's say, overall. I mean, no one does. And I don't think the Marlins fancy him at center field either. They clearly are not overly enamored with Garrett Hampson being there in terms of an everyday starter at center field. Sounds to me like Jonathan Davis is going to be the starting center fielder for a good portion of time. Jazz not scheduled to be back for 3 to 4 weeks at best. Boy, oh boy. Things could spiral here quickly for the Marlins. They really could. However, on the positive side, Cooper Loop, baby. There was some Twitter slander. He returned with a bang yesterday, and Jorge Soler as well, mate. Stays hot. I must say, this is where it feels slightly different to 22, which gives me more optimism because there are some sticks in the lineup that can impact the game. Jorge Soler being one of them. Luis Arias the other. Garrett Cooper another. Brian De La Cruz equally. I do feel there is a nucleus in an offense where last year, literally, you looked up and down the lineup and there was Garrett Cooper and no one else. And so this does feel different, right?
Yeah, it's a deeper lineup. It's also last year injuries happened in bunches, didn't it? It was one or two guys, and then it just kept snowballing from there. And it was literally just Cooper and a AAA lineup basically around him.
Yeah, and it was.
That's where the season went off the rails, and that's what the Marlins at the moment need to fight for. I know that yes, they're only one game under 500, but I think we've talked off air about the idea that this isn't a team that's going to put together 6, 7, 8, 9 wins on the bounce. So by that nature, they can't lose like that as well. This is, while only 3 games in a row, but 4 and 5. This is the worst stretch of the season since the beginning of the season. And they need to, it's hard when you're away and going from city to city, but they do need to stem that flow, but they need to pick up a couple of wins over the next couple of games, these away games, because you don't want to be going back to Miami and being 5, 6 below 500 and then a couple more behind on the wild card. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And this is the point as well. I think the Padres may be on deck when they actually return too. That won't be easy. Plus, they've got to go into Anaheim next up in continuing this road trip. So a lot of tough matchups here. I guess this isn't in order of the rundown, but it is what it is. We have the creative license here on Locked On Marlins, which is great. Big game today. Big start for Sandy Alcantara for a few reasons. We talked about it yesterday, mate, and the everydayers will remember this topic and this conversation, but it's going to be interesting to see how Skip manages Sandy moving forwards. There's some questions to be asked, but overall, the Marlins have lost the first 2 games in Coors. This is the moment for Sandy Alcantara to step up and deliver something that the team truly needs. I'm very intrigued to see the way this one's going to play out. My actual gut feel is that Sandy goes 7+ this evening. What about you on Sandy this evening?
They really need it, don't they? I mean, it was only yesterday we were talking about the idea of not putting him past the third time through the lineup, but with the way that the bullpen's being used at the moment, and we spoke about this, about the idea that you can't keep using these guys. You can't have these guys projected to throw 80, 90, 100 innings because what they were currently getting out of people like Brazaban, who we'll get into,
Yep.
was kind of a surprise. It was a positive, but all of a sudden you start overusing that arm, and the stuff just isn't there anymore. And yeah, he needs a bit of a blow, doesn't he? He needs to spread out those performances. But yeah, it is a case of Sandy. This would be a great time for him to really swing it around, and the lineup that the Rockies are throwing out there, yeah, it is a little bit of a underwhelming lineup.
Yep.
But obviously, anytime you're playing at Coors, you know that anybody can run into one and ruin your stat line, and hopefully Sandy and the Marlins can avoid that tonight.
I think so. I remember there was a horror outing in Coors. Was that last year? Maybe the year before. I'm not sure, but there was definitely that. Sandy's got history here where he had a blow up, but I don't think this is the same Rockies lineup, to be honest with you. The Rockies are 2 up in this series, and frankly, I think that slightly flatters them in some ways. But this is the time. This is the time for your reigning Cy Young, NL Cy Young, anyway. Off the back of 3 disappointing endings to 3 outings, to really step up and look to show us who Sandy Alcantara still is, put himself back into the mix. So really intrigued to see what we get out of him for certain. We're going to talk about, Brazaman that we talked about, and a couple of other topics. Mentioned Burdick a couple of times. We didn't know when we recorded yesterday who would be heading back down to clear a space for Jonathan Davis. We now do. Equally, Burdick is back at AAA and already raking. So it's going to be interesting. But before we do that, let's talk about our good friends over at RocketMoney. Yes, sir. And RocketMoney is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forget about, and chances are you're one of them, like the Stars app just to watch one show, or that free gaming trial you never actually used. RocketMoney will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you, and for any that you don't want to pay for anymore, can't read, just hit cancel, and RocketMoney will cancel it for you. It's that easy. RocketMoney also helps you manage all of your finances in one place and automatically categorize your expenses. So, for example, I'll be able to see how much wine purchases have been made in the past 6 months. That could be dangerous. So you can easily track your budget in real time and get alerted if anything looks off. Over 3 million people have used RocketMoney, saving the average person, and here's the kicker now, $720 a year. That is on average $720 a year. Absolutely stunning. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. All right then, Mr. Barrett. Peyton Burdick was the sacrificial lamb, if that's the right way of phrasing it. He was optioned back down to AAA. He's raking in AAA, it seems, today. He's back with a bang, hit a home run, a couple of Ks, I believe, that you sprinkled in there too. But overall, we can't be totally stunned and surprised that Peyton Burdick was optioned. I do think it's interesting that he was, in the fact that, he hasn't been given a ton of leeway and a ton of leash at the big league level. But this is, again, kind of signaling that the Marlins are looking for different types of hitters in this organization right now. And high strikeout guy, and when you say high, you're talking 1 in 2 at-bats ending with a K. That's way too high for this organization. So, firstly, surprise level on Burdick, I think low, right?
Yeah, I think we even discussed it yesterday, the idea that Crater to the 60, and then you can send him down and bring in Davis. And yeah, you're right. And a home run in his first game down there, but 2 Ks. He is what he is, isn't he? He is. I'm glad in a way that the Marlins did it this way, and also because it's a logical thing to do. That you don't have to put him onto waivers and risk losing him. So he stays with the organization, and I'm sure he'll come up as and when is needed. Because as we know, the baseball season is long, but I just can't help but feel like that this is his game now. That I don't see an evolution to the game. Could he knock down that K rate 5-10%? Maybe, but I think he is what he is. He's a high strikeout guy that's going to run into one every now and then. And at his age, I think it is a case of that's him fully formed now.
Fully formed. let me ask you, blast from the past, but it got me thinking earlier for some reason. I'm always thinking of this guy, but Lewis Brinson, old friend, stud. Let's rewind the clocks a touch to Brinson. And, he was given the opportunity to work through those struggles at the major league level for various reasons. The team was in a different spot. I wouldn't say they were in win now mode, but when you reflect on Brinson and his profile, a major league profile, is Burdick at that level? Like, is Burdick even at Brinson's level at this point, at the major league level? Or is it too early to even say that? Or is it unlikely? I mean, Brinson's got one of the lowest WARs, cumulative WARs, I think, negative ones anyway, that there may be. But I don't know, like, should we be writing off Peyton Burdick at this point?
I don't think it is even the case of writing him off. I think it is a case of we know what he is now. And with Brinson, you're right, the team was in a full rebuild. So they were going to make absolutely 100% certain that Brinson wasn't a major leaguer for letting him go. And now they're not at that point. They are at the point of, like, as you said, it's not quite win now, but it's certainly not lose 90 to 100 games a season and make sure you know what you've got with these guys. Brinson's playing reasonably well at the level that he's playing at now. And maybe that's what Burdick has down in his future. But it is a case of, I think the Marlins will give him another crack potentially, but I don't think they're looking at him and counting on him as a future everyday outfielder for them.
I don't think so. I don't see it in the stars, and I've been feeling this way for probably since I've started doing this podcast in particular. I don't think the Marlins have ever felt that way about Jerar Encarnacion, and I think again he is who he is at this point, and actually the profile looks pretty similar to Peyton Burdick with less defensive versatility, let's say, or capability. And so I think Jerar Encarnacion's days are numbered in this organization. I'm interested to see if he gets a go later in the year. If he does, it's probably an indication that the year may be lost. So I don't know. Is there any hope? Am I getting a little bit too down on Jerar Encarnacion? I mean, for me, last year was the year when I was just totally baffled by what the Marlins were doing with him in, a year that ended up being a poor year. He got little to no opportunity, I would say, until right at the back end of the season, perhaps. And so, for me, the signal's already there with Encarnacion. What about you?
I think you nailed it in the sense of he's the same player, isn't he? The strikeouts are there. The power, I would say, is probably higher. That power potential is the ball off his bat is immense, but the defense just isn't there. I mean, even at first base, it's questionable. And if the Marlins are going to put him at DH, then that creates another hole, doesn't it? That idea of you've got to play him not every day at DH, but pretty much anytime he's playing anywhere else. Is the bat enough to be rewarding for the loss that you're going to have in the defense? And I don't see it. So he's a little bit younger. He hasn't quite had that opportunity yet. And he's playing okay at AAA. But like we discussed already, you put a genuinely good Major League Baseball player down at AAA, like you see sometimes with these rehabs, and they're hitting 600 with like a 1400 OPS. Everybody hits at AAA.
Absolutely. I mean, do you remember when Tatis went down there? He was just absolutely... I mean, Tatis one of the best players in the game, so it's unfair in some ways to use that, but it is useful to see a player of that caliber drop down the level, just so you have... That is the baseline of an above average major league hitter, and that's what they should do. And so when you look at them and go, hey, this dude's hitting 270 and he's hit 10 home runs. Well, Tatis did that in about 4 games with a 500 average. So, it's useful to adjust your expectations. Clearly, AAA and the major league, it's such a huge jump. And I think that's the thing. Like, the jump is massive for these hitters. And the Marlins, it seems, have really struggled to get guys that can actually take that step up and hit the ground running, so to speak. It's been a problem for years. It's been a problem. It may be, rooted in some of their drafting, some of their development, etc. But it's been a problem. It continues to be a problem. And when you look around the organization, particularly like at the AAA levels, and okay, if you need some more depth, like there's just not much around at the moment. And that kind of scares me, to be honest with you, thinking about how this year could play out, how next year can play out, how you roll into next year, considering some of the free agents there could be. Boy, oh boy, Kim could be very busy this offseason. Let's do our final ad, and then we're going to talk about the bullpen briefly because we're running long, but there's a few segues in there. It's time to let you know about our good friends over at Birddogs. Guys, tell me which product and which name is catching your eye. Go and check them out, I must say, because Birddogs product names are wild. There is no Brinsanity yet, but I am still petitioning for a Brinsanity set of slacks or something along those lines. Guys, I must say, some of my other Locked On hosts as well they've been testing these, and they are reporting, I believe they're saying it's a 5-tool set of shorts. I think that's the description I'd seen from one of the other Locked On hosts, saying that it's a 5-tool short. Fit, comfort, affordability, product name, I don't know. They have it all in Birddogs, so get yourselves over there. The fit is en fuego, comfort en fuego, versatile as you like, straight from the golf course, straight to the cocktail lounge, you name it, they've got you covered. So easy. Here's what you have to do. Use the graphics if you need to, but it's get to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB. And when you enter the promo LockedOnMLB, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every single order. Can't say fairer than that. All right then, Shaun, talk to me about Brazoban. He's a guy that's kind of caught my eye the last couple of weeks. He caught my eye early in the year. He caught our eyes in the offseason because he had these visa issues. We're like, oh, are we concerned about Brazoban? He came out of nowhere. He started the year quite slow, then was absolutely on fire. Feels like since Jaguar has returned, Brazoban struggling a touch. And this isn't specifically about Brazoban, kind of it is, but are we starting to now see this bullpen returning to what maybe it could or should be? Are we starting to see some cracks where early in the year, everything was going their way? Everything. And Brazoban was asked to, put out so many fires. Is this, just a rebalancing happening here with the bullpen? I know we're missing Puck. We haven't had a ton of save opportunities recently either, and Flora's done them well. But more generally, is the levels starting to even out here a touch?
I think so. I think it is a case of it's partly the usage, especially over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it is a case of like Brazoban is an independent ball guy that they got off the scrap heap.
Yeah,
a bit like Bender a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and you ride that hot streak, don't you? You enjoy the positives that he brought. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at 6 appearances with giving up hits. Like it is a case of he's starting to sort of fall back down to sort of the level you probably should expect him to deliver for the Marlins. But on the whole, for the whole of the bullpen, the walks are up a little bit. And I think that's partly because of usage. It is a case of it's harder and harder to throw strikes when you're tired and overused. So the problem with this is there isn't really much of a fix, is it?
No.
I don't see the Marlins suddenly getting huge amounts of length from their rotation as it is.
No.
This was a concern of mine in the early part of the season in spring when we talked about the idea that all these guys were young, and obviously with Cueto down now, it is a case of it's been severely tested, and this is kind of what we've just got to live with, unfortunately. I think there's enough talent there. I think there still is enough talent inside the pitching for the Marlins and the bats. It's a case of we will be successful or unsuccessful off the back of our bats, and we've enjoyed this run of Marlins pitchers being elite. The bullpen for a period of time was probably elite. Maybe that's ended now, or at least at the moment, that's what we're experiencing. And for the Marlins to keep trading water at 500, the bats have got to go.
It's the ebb and flow of the year, mate, right? I mean, the bullpen was elite. It was literally carrying the team for so long. It's time for either the sticks to heat up, the rotation to start doing more, like the other parts of the roster need to start delivering. It doesn't help the fact that the offense is dinged with a couple of guys missing, the hottest sticks, really, and Jazz and Jesus at the time. But the rotation, in reality right now, feels settled. And that 5 is settled. Eury Perez is kind of slotted in there. He's had 3 starts. Feels settled, and it's like, just how can those guys just take it to the next level a touch? How can we get, ultra efficient Eury Perez, 80 pitches, yes, but 6 innings of 80 pitch ball. And Eddie Cabrera continued to limit those walks and throw strikes. And can Sandy just continue, not continue, but can he start to convert these starts like he did last year? they're all the critical things here. And there's some question marks, mate. The final topic on the rundown here for those with the graphics anyway is it any panic? Is there any panic in your mind at this point? You've been a Marlins fan longer than me, but even me since 2016, mate, I have some scars. I remember things sit in my mind, how these things tend to go. One game under 500 on a tough road trip without some of their best hitters at this point. Is there any panic at all in your mind at this point?
Not panic. I've watched this before,
I know.
but it is a case of, yeah, you're right. Sometimes I'm watching previous seasons and I'm looking at it and going, oh, there are only 3 games under 500, 4 games under 500, and they were a hot streak away, but I'd prefer the hot streak got them above 500. I think it is a case of, at the moment, the team's been struggling, and I think they need. I don't know what it is. They just need this spark. They need something to come out. And Sandy going 7 tonight, and Sorare continue to hit bombs and Coop. I think that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting on, if they'd got the win yesterday, if Uri had gone 5 innings and those home runs had propelled the team to a win, that would have really made a huge difference. And that can happen tonight. That can just as easily happen tonight, and then they can go with a bit of confidence. Because right now, I would feel like the team are a little bit sluggish, or they've been away for a while. They're not winning games. It's a slog. They need a spark tonight.
I think we're seeing some of the first signs of a touch of panic from some of the hitters with some of the chase. Some of the chase yesterday, I mean, I saw some of the clips posted around Gene Segura's strikeout, which was insane in many ways. But are we starting to see an element where there's a bit of chase happening here, where people are trying to do too much offensively? I think it's just a matter of just stick to the game plan, stay within yourself, effectively just recreate what Luis Arias, I know he was 0 for 5 yesterday, but recreate Luis Arias' approach of just be ready, stay within yourself, no chase, minimize the strikeout, minimize the swing and miss, and good things will come to you. With that being said, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day, guys. Thanks so much to the UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett, for joining me. Scheduling note, programming notes. There will be no episode tomorrow. Thursday, unfortunately, there will be no episode. I am on a work trip away overnight, no laptop being taken. So there will be a bonus episode of Locked On Marlins throughout the weekend at some juncture. I will find the right spot to deliver that. But as I mentioned, no episode tomorrow. Sorry for that, guys. Sorry for those that need me on the commute. And I apologize to you, the everydayers in particular, for that. But we'll be back with a bang on Friday, of course. Like I said, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. I'll see you guys on Friday. And hopefully the Marlins have had a series leveler by that point. We'll wait to see.